It is time now to review AEW Wrestle Dream 2024 that took place at the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington this past weekend on October 12, 2024. A big show that I don't think anyone really expected to be as big. It is, listen, let's just go with the cliff notes straight off the bat. You know, what did Warren think of the show? You know, if I had to give you the elevator pitch, this was a great pay-per-view. It's one of AEW's best pay-per-views of the year, and it is one that was not only packed with great wrestling, like top to bottom, but was eventful. Stuff was happening. This is a keystone moment in regards to storylines and angles and advancements, particularly when it comes to the biggest angle that the company has right now, which is, you know, Jon Moxley and his thugs, you know, what Dictator Mox. I have a lot of people using a lot of terms to try and make sense of, you know, what exactly this is, because it's not as so far as I'm recording this, and I'm recording this on Monday the 14th of October. So far, like, you know, the group doesn't have a name. It's nothing as clear cut as when, you know, the Blackpool Combat Club was formed, where, you know, these guys got together and they started wearing jackets, similar jackets that all had a name, and it's not the same thing here. Maybe we'll get a name for the group. Also, doesn't even matter. It does, like, anyway, we're going off track here a little bit. I'm trying to give you my high level macro view of the show. And that's where I'm at. And I've had 2 days to think about this. I had 2 days to put this together. And I legitimately think this is one of the greatest pay-per-views that AEW has put on. I think it's back, you know, maybe we're back to having these conversations where AEW just slaps some things together and everything connects and everything works. And it shouldn't come to any surprise to anyone, because arguably AEW has the greatest professional wrestling roster ever assembled, like in the history of pro wrestling. I'm not talking about the past 5 years, 10 years, you know, 50 years. I'd say all time. When's the last time has a roster been this awesome and as far as talent goes, just complete, just from top to bottom? That's why sometimes it's fascinating when we have these, when we have, you know, the week-to-week dynamites with less than stellar matches. You kind of scratch your head at some point and you say to yourself, this should not be happening. Like, there's no reason for this to be happening in this company. And then they slap together a pay-per-view like Wrestle Dream, where a lot of matches, let's be real, came together fairly quickly. Didn't have the benefit of months of build, and come together, and all of a sudden you just have a pay-per-view which has a match of the year on it, a bunch of close candidates, a tremendous angle, like from the outset of the match. Even the opener was just a tremendous match. Like, there's so much going on this card, and this is systematic. This of the fact that, as I said, AEW has the greatest professional roster ever assembled in pro wrestling, but it also compounds the idea of something that I talk about frequently when I do the AEW reviews every Thursday here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. AEW is a pay-per-view company. It's a pay-per-view show. That's what it's best at. That's where it excels every time. That's where the metrics and the consumer-facing metrics all come together to prove that this is indeed fact, because the pay-per-views, generally speaking, are always in the same range as far as buys goes. Of course, the houses for AEW are always significantly better for the pay-per-views. Like this is a company where consumer confidence still absolutely exists in its pay-per-views. Its week-to-week programming is an entirely different conversation. But AEW once again proves that it is a pay-per-view company. Now, I have not been much online since Wrestle Dream, as many of you know, because I talked about it on stream and so on and so forth. Even I think in the Mr. Warren Hayes show itself. This weekend was Canadian Thanksgiving, so I was having family over. So I was spending time with the family. I took a lot of distance. Kept the phone down. Outside of using the timer to know when to baste the turkey and that kind of stuff. But I stayed away from everything really related to Wrestle Dream discussion. So I don't know what the talk of the town is. I don't know what people are saying about it. So I don't know what to counteract. I don't even know if I have anything to counteract. I don't know if people think this was a good show, a bad show, if it was. I am firmly in the camp that this is a top 5 AEW pay-per-view this year. Like, let's pull up the old cage match for a second here. Let's just take a look here, just to get an idea. According to Cage Match, based on ratings given by users, Revolution this year was the number one. We're talking 2024, right? The number one top pay-per-view of the year, which I have a tendency to agree with. All Out then in second, London in third, Dynasty, AEW All In at third. I'll get my words right. AEW Dynasty number 4, and number 5 is Wrestle Dream 2024. The closest competition that Wrestle Dream has is Forbidden Door, which was at 8.60. At 8 even, excuse me, because Wrestle Dream sits at 8.60. And I think it should be higher. Am I so bold as to say that I like this more than the show at Wembley? I think I might. I think I like this show more than Wembley. I'm absolutely in agreement with Revolution. I think Revolution was the company's best pay-per-view of the year, and it's one of the best that they've ever done. It's in the top 3 of the best pay-per-views they've ever put on. I think All Out was tremendous this year. I think Wrestle Dream is the top 3. We're amending this. I started by talking about top 5. Let's go for top 3. I think the overall rating of 8.60 is very, very low. Because in my ratings, I have, if I'm not mistaken, because again, this has been 2 days now, or practically, Saturday night to Monday afternoon. I've got like, I don't think I have a single match under 3.5 stars in my little goofy ratings thing to sort of get my point across. I don't think I have anything under 3 point. I don't. I do not. I do not. It was a fantastic show. It was a fantastic show. And from top to bottom, for all the hours, like the 4 hours you're sitting there, the 9 or 10 matches that we had, excluding the 0 hour. The 0 hour is another story. We're talking about the main show. The 0 hour is that's a whole other ball of wax. But in regards to the pay-per-view itself, to the main show, it's nigh untouchable. It's tremendous. It was a show for pro wrestling fans, or at least for us geeks, right? At least for the geeks, because WWE is the cool place, according to a very astutely written piece of commentary out there on a news website. WWE is cool, whereas AEW is for nerds and geeks. Whereas the spoiler is, folks, I don't know if you know this, the spoiler is that pro wrestling has never been cool and will never be cool. It's not cool. You will never be cool because you watch pro wrestling. That's the whole spoiler, though. But whatever makes you feel good, right? Whatever makes you feel good in whatever fandom. If you want to say you're the cool guy for listening to this type of music and that type of music is the nerds who listen to it, that's fine. Like, yeah, that's okay. I've been through this. I used to do music reviews in a past life, and it's the same situation. It's the same thing. There's always a genre, a style, an artist that will be elevated, that, you know, turbo music nerds will consider to be the cool one, and that this other subgenre might be for the nerds. It's the same thing here. I'm used to this. I'm used to not being in the mainstream acceptance of things, and I'm comfortable with that. I've always been comfortable with this. If AEW remains an eternal second, I will be comfortable with that. I will never feel the anxiety of having to show up to impress, Big Brother or everyone, because who are you going to be impressing? Who are you going to be impressing? These people who write articles or who talk about how AEW is for nerds and that WWE is the cool. You'll never impress these people. AEW will never impress these people because they're set. They're set in they're entrenched, and they're just no matter what the other company does, they'll always be for the nerds. That's all. There's no reason to try and win them over, to try and make things better for them. They're bought and sold somewhere else, and I say that in a figurative sense, not literal. I'm not saying that people who write articles lauding WWE are bought for. Absolutely not. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm using it in the figurative sense of being bought and sold, as in, you are completely invested in the other product. That's what I mean. But listen, I'll tell you one thing: if AEW's for nerds, if it's for turbo nerds, that's fine. I know I am a turbo nerd wrestling fan. I know I am. And if this show was made for me, thank you. Finally, something for me. This show was for me. And I am completely comfortable in that. But hey, listen, 8,000, what was the attendance? 8,045 tickets distributed, according to our pal over at WrestleTix. I have no doubt that was the case. The Tacoma Dome, I wouldn't say, I mean, it looked fuller than a lot of recent TV shows. How about that? Just like for instance, this past Wednesday. It's a good number, and much better than any recent television that they've been doing. So again, like, this is where the money goes, because people believe in the pay-per-views, because the pay-per-views are more than often they are top tier quality. So the trend on that end continues. If you want to spend money to go see an AEW show, well, it should be for a pay-per-view. That's the meaningfulness of it. But yeah, 8,045, like I said, like that's it. It's more people than this past Wednesday than what they usually get. And I know, and again, it's something that I bring up quite a bit on the Dynamite reviews. You should watch them or listen to them. Every Thursday, they're available on the dot. Every Thursday, boom, they're right there. I talk a lot about AEW's attendance woes, because that's what they are, and its impact, right? And I've said it for a while. It's like, the minute that AEW lands a TV deal, will attendance figures even be that big a deal? Because right up until recently, AEW still required, to make some money and to keep itself going. Also, on top of whatever media deals they were able to get, also needed, proper gates, proper houses to make money, basically. Jeez, just as simple as that. Maybe not as severely as it's the case like with Japanese promotions, where that's their bread and butter, but I'm sure that live attendance represented a significant portion of AEW's revenue. Now, the significant portion of AEW's revenue is from now on is the media deal. Like, it's just a tremendous deal. Does this mean that AEW needs to concern itself less with live attendance from an economic, fiscal point of view, I would say probably. And I'm just throwing that out there. I think what they might be in a position where whatever attendance they're able to generate is just like extra cash in the pockets, or good for PR. Because you always look better when you're able to sell buildings out. Look, I don't have to tell you these things. You know what. You, my A+ audience listening to this D-List podcast, you know that this is what a full crowd, on TV specifically, what it means, how significant it is to coming across as being hot and being the right flavor of ice cream you should be eating right now. So essentially, it might just be some extra cash, and they'll be happy to get that extra money, right? And then I'm sure they factored it in, but the most of their money is coming from the TV deal, which is how wrestling works these days on television at the very least. But nonetheless, as I talked about just this past week, smaller houses, that aren't as packed, don't come across as exciting for the viewer on one end, but also impact how your wrestlers react and feel and go at it, right? Like that's just normal. Wrestlers feed off of the energy from a crowd. So to a degree, I'm not really surprised that the show that we got on Wednesday was fine, but you could feel the energy being a little level off because there weren't even 2,000 people in the building on Wednesday. Whereas here, you've got a crowd of 8,000 who are into it, and maybe just because of that, it felt like everyone was just giving a little more, giving a little extra. There's some matches that were elevated because the crowd was so hot for it, because the crowd was into it. There were moments of matches that just felt better because the audience was into it. And you achieve that by having bigger attendances, fuller venues. That's just how it goes. So 8,045, is this a sellout? No, but it's a good crowd for a wrestling show, for a national televised traveling brand. Absolutely. It's a very good house. I'm sure they're happy about it. And I'm sure the wrestlers, the performers, I'm sure they were happy about it as well. I was happy about the show. I was particularly happy about the main event. Why don't we start with that? Because I've talked enough about non-pay-per-view specific related things. We sort of bobbed and weaved here. That's kind of what you expect from me, I guess, I hope. But now we're going to start talking about the show, and we'll start with the main event and then circle back and go from the pre-show up. How about that? Is that all right? Because I think the main event is it's kind of the lead. It's the big story. It's the thing. Jon Moxley defeated Bryan Danielson to become once again AEW World Champion. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is Jon Moxley's fourth title reign. That is correct. Look, a tremendous match. Like, big picture thoughts about the match. It was incredible. It was a brilliant piece of story where Mox was indeed in this vibe where he's looking to just like terminate Danielson, just to get him out of the way, doing him a favor, whatever are the true motivations as to why Jon Moxley is doing this or not. Maybe this was the true motivation. He has given the impression that there are other forces at work at the very least, that it's not just, to be doing what's the word I'm looking for? A mercy killing, right? Which is what he's been presenting his match with Danielson as, it's like, I'm going to send you home. You're done. You're going to be fine. And what you saw here, I sincerely believe, was the warrior, our hero, Danielson, who has been in arguably the greatest run of his career. We can discuss this, but you can discuss it in the chat, of course, or in the comments, I mean. But we can talk about this point maybe on another occasion, maybe on a live stream or whatever. But I sincerely believe that the past 18 months have been the greatest singles run that Bryan Danielson has been on in his entire career. Coming in, being a backbone of this company, having these tremendous matches upon tremendous matches, an international superstar, revered wherever he goes. And you can feel throughout it all that Danielson his body's fatigued. Psychologically, he seems burnt. Everything just feels heavy-handed. You're happy for Danielson, but you can also feel, particularly in this match, that we're not getting full American Dragon here. We have a Bryan Danielson who is battered. He's exhausted. Even before he became world champion, he was already on this impossible run. He's been doing this for years when doctors have been telling him he needs to slow down, he needs to stop. He was talking to us in the lead up to All in London that he was going to need surgery by the end of the year, that, he wants to spend time with his family and so on and so forth. And this everlasting story about his career wrapping up as a full-time wrestler, it's coming to an end. All these things have all been, they've all naturally coalesced to the Wrestle Dream match. And Danielson was more than happy to oblige. If he needed to tell another story, if he needed to tell the tale of Bryan Danielson, invincible wrestling legend, he would have cranked up his mental game, his physicalness. He would have cranked that up, and you would have never said, you probably wouldn't have seen the difference. He would have just delivered an absolutely tremendous match to tell the story that he cannot be put down. But the story here was he can be put down, and he has to be put down because he indeed does not know when to stop. You see Danielson, you see him wrestling, and you're like, and you can feel something's off. And Mox is taking complete advantage of it. And he is being just throughout this match was a tremendous thug. Just like a methodical, angry, spiteful, not spiteful. Spiteful is not the right word, but, dominating presence where, of course, it wasn't a one-sided fight throughout, but he truly was able to convince us that he was the guy who was going to do it, that could do it. There was no one else who was going to do it. And he was able to besiege Danielson and just whittle him down until, despite the fact that Danielson is throwing Busaiku knees and Mox is kicking out or avoiding getting pinned, and despite the fact that Danielson does whatever he takes, and Mox is dropping Death Riders, and Danielson is kicking out at one. You can still see the spirit of Danielson in here, but he sets him up. Mox sets him up for the gotch, plants him, and then does the bulldog choke, right? And at this point, he has just chipped away at Danielson. He's whittled him away. Whatever was left, he just completely tore at him. Danielson taps, and a little bit out of nowhere, and it just stuns everyone. Everyone is completely stunned. I'm stunned. I'm like, wait, what? At some moment, I was thinking to myself, did Bryce fuck up the finish? Because everyone was like, did Bryce screw up the finish? Because it came so out of nowhere. But no, that was it. And the crowd booed, of course. But then for the remainder of this angle, they were stunned. They were just stunned. And I am assuming this is maybe bad of me. No, I shouldn't do this. This is bad. But I'm already committed. I regret it now. But here we go. I'm assuming that a lot of people didn't like the finish without checking first. I've told you, I've stayed away from commentary for the past couple of days. Since Wrestle Dream for personal reasons, but like I can see. How about can we just rephrase that? Warren, you could also cut it out of your, but no, I also want to be transparent on this stuff. How about we do it like this? I can understand if anyone saw this and were disappointed by the finish. If I can understand it, but this is what you had to do because the angle that followed probably worked best in this aura of discomfort and shock that people were already in. Because as you remember, the angle after is just fantastic with Mox bringing back a plastic bag and Wheeler Yuta coming in and everyone, I don't know who was thinking he was coming in for the save. I think at this point, I had pointed it out on Thursday, and I'm still holding through to that. I had pointed out that Yuta was probably going to turn on Mox, and he was probably going to point to the match that they had on Wednesday on this past week's Dynamite as one of the main reasons that made him flip, because Yuta was on the mat, I should say, and he was suffering, and he was reaching out to Danielson, and Danielson wasn't even looking at him, didn't check on him. He was just like standing there, and Wheeler was like, While Wheeler could say, yeah, you know what? And I tried to save you. Your concern was always my top priority. I always made sure you were okay. I walked you to the back when you were being stretchered out, all that. So I was there with you. You can't even glance at me. Where were you in the match? I got the tar beat out of me. They were beating me up with a bell hammer. Where were you? And why weren't you checking on me? I was right there. I was right there. If they give him the microphone on Wednesday and they say they do a why you to why promo, I guarantee that's his motivation. So off of that information, off of what happened on Wednesday, when Yuta came in, I was like, no, Yuta's siding with Moxley. Like this is the thing. And he comes in and they do the bag gimmick again. They put the plastic bag over Danielson's face to choke him. So, again, I'm assuming people didn't like this either. They didn't like it the first time. Oh Lord, they mustn't have liked it the second time. The people that I saw who liked it were people within my group chats, within my haunts, the areas I hang out with, the people that I chat with. They were all very excited. They all thought the finish was fantastic. They all thought it was a crucial moment to have a true top guy be nasty and evil and unremorseful. They all saw this as a perfect construction for the next few months. Because all of this is nice. Having Danielson be the champion and all of that. But if Danielson does have to take a break, and if Danielson really does have to have that neck surgery that he was talking about in the build up to All In, where I was to All Out, to All In, excuse me, and I was sitting here saying, skeptical, smells like work, And if he really does need to do that, well, that's why they wrote him off TV. That's why they beat him up. That's why they had Claudio Pillmanize his head. And why Danielson remained prone on the mat until they rolled him onto a stretcher and took him out. Barely responsive. As the babyface locker room looked on. You needed this moment to create Mox on the level you wanted Mox to be at. Mox couldn't just be a nasty little heel. No, what he had to do was take out the top babyface of the company. Argue with me who the top babyface is if it's not Danielson. Go ahead, I'll wait. Swerve maybe. I'll give you that. We could argue Swerve. Kenny Omega. He hasn't been there in months. He hasn't been there in months. Like, Danielson was the guy. Everyone loves Bryan Danielson. Everyone. So to see him be completely decimated, destroyed by his friends, former friends, it's a hell of a story you're telling here, where you're doing the bag angle again, probably to the dismay of tons, thousands maybe. I got to tell you, love the finish because it led so perfectly naturally into the post-match angle. It all coalesced. It all made sense. It was brilliantly executed. And if there are people who didn't like this, I can only imagine who it might be. And if you're upsetting a certain fan, a certain type of fan, and they are upset about this, or pundit or commentator or whatever, blogger, if these are the people being upset, then you know AEW is doing something right. Because from what I saw and what I understood, everyone loved the angle. Everyone loved the match. And look, and now this is what happens. You're getting a brand new, fresh reign for Jon Moxley. Because let's not forget, it is his fourth ring as AEW champion, right? World champion. But there was this one time he held it for like a week. The whole CM Punk stuff. Remember that? And then won it back when it was finally vacated, only to drop it back to MJF like 2 months later. So it's not as if the previous reigns, the two previous reigns of Jon Moxley as world champion have been groundbreaking, but this one has the potential to give him a second reign, a second proper reign, let's put it that way, with him at the top. And in this persona of being like I don't know how you call it, weirdo, weirdo dictator-like gang leader, cult leader. Again, so many ways to call it so far. It's almost as if he's created a group that's based on a cult of personality. I fucking love the final. The final angle, completely, utterly loved it. I've got no notes on this. Yuta blasting him with a Busaiku knee before he chokes him with the bag. It's brilliant stuff. Now, if you are upset at this being the way that Bryan Danielson's career ends, because of course it was, Danielson said it himself, as long as I am world champion, I will be wrestling. I will stop wrestling I will stop being a full-time wrestler when I lose the title. And they being AEW have been bringing this up numerous times, but they've been also very careful with the language. They have never said Bryan Danielson will retire. Bryan Danielson is finished with wrestling. This is not a Sting situation where Sting's final match was announced and everyone was excited and bought tickets because they wanted to see Sting wrestle one more time. If you think that this is the end of Bryan Danielson's career as a pro wrestler, you have not been paying attention. First, as I said, they've been very careful with the language. They've been saying full-time wrestler, full-time wrestler. Danielson himself has been saying, this will be my last year as a full-time wrestler. Full-time, doing a lot of heavy lifting here. I'm sure people are acting like this is Danielson's last hurrah, but it's not. It will not. Because this is a guy who is going to get the itch again. This is a guy who's going, at some point, he's after, playing with his daughter and his son and tending to his garden and going to the farmer's market, for a couple of weeks, couple of months. He's going to start getting an itch. He's going to start getting the voices in the back of his head. And he's going to start to be antsy. Bree's going to be like, why are you fidgeting so much, Bryan? And I don't know, darling, I don't know. Until he figures it out, until he puts one and one together and he's like, I got to wrestle again. This is what this guy does best, what he's always done best, what he loves, pro wrestling. He's not just going to throw it away. He's not ending it like this. If you don't believe that whoever, let's assume AEW for now, okay? If AEW ever has the opportunity to retire Bryan Danielson, like for real, from active competition, they are not going to retire him off of a, just a gimmick match. Danielson is going to get the full Sting treatment and probably plus, probably more. There's going to be a proper tour. They're going to do like Sting. They're going to do like John Cena. Don't worry. We're not saying goodbye to Bryan Danielson. And besides, in this story, everything is still existent. Everything is still set right now for Danielson to come back and get his pound of flesh. This is inevitably what's going to happen. And whether it's for the title or not, wherever we're at that point, Danielson's going to come back and he's got a bone to pick with all of his former BCC pals. Yuta betrayed him. Claudio Pillmanized his neck. And Mox. Mox is the top. He's the guy who initiated all. He's going to be back. When? You know what? You want to put some money on this? I'm thinking the stadium show that they're doing in Texas next year. In Arlington, right? Whatever. At the Rangers ball field. I think that's your long-term plan. It's your long-term plan. Because in the meantime, you've already set up challengers to Mox. It's already done. You already have challengers set up for Jon Moxley. You did it earlier in the evening with Orange Cassidy. You remember that weird little segment that they had during Wrestle Dream where Jerry Lynn was hyping up Orange Cassidy? Like, you're a guy here. People love you. I dressed up as you for Halloween. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, I didn't quite understand. I didn't see, other than, go Orange Cassidy. Let's not forget about him. He can be a top guy. I really didn't understand where we were going with this. At the end, it became clear. Darby Allin, because he came out with Darby Allin and others, right? Jeff Jarrett. You had the private party. The security, all sorts of stuff. And then you have the very last shot you have. They're coming in to try and save Danielson, and they can't. And the last shot you have is Danielson, it's Darby and Orange outside the ring as Danielson's being mounted onto the gurney, not the whatever, it's not a gurney, it's a stretcher. It's one of these, a stretcher. It's a stretcher job. Who cares, Warren? Do I look like a paramedic to you? Apparently, Jeff Jarrett is apparently a paramedic on top of everything else. But one of the last shots you see is Darby and Orange, who tried to save Mox, up against the barricade on the floor, and they're staring up at the ring. And that's how this pay-per-view ends. With, the good guys coming together to avenge what happened. And Mox already has issues with Darby. He's had issues in the past with Orange over the international title. And Darby's being set up as a top guy. And then even earlier in the evening, you have Jay White, who gets a big win, who was on Dynamite last week, talking about how he wanted his own, that he was angling for the world title as well. So in the meantime, you're setting up a rogues gallery of defenses for Mox. You get a Monster of the Week type of situation where you set up a rogues gallery of guys to go up against Mox in numerous forms. You'd wonder how much Jay White is bothered by Danielson being being removed or not. But then again, it's a babyface Switchblade we're dealing with now. So, we're in unknown territory at this point. So who knows? But you really had this feeling, this impression of, there are your Avengers. There are the guys who are going to band together in the darkest hour. They're going to come together to try and avenge Danielson and beat Mox and derail his plans. And you can set this up for months. And I'm pretty sure if you were to open Tony's Spiral Notebook, you know the one I'm talking about, you were to open it up and you were to look at it, decipher all of his booking plans, you'd see it on one page in pencil, with a big circle, that he's scribbled over three or four times. You know what I mean? Mox versus Danielson, Stadium Show, Texas. I can't remember the name of the venue, but nonetheless, that's it. I'm convinced that's the plan. It's a good plan, but that's what you do with Mox moving forward. And if some people are upset about this, I don't know what to tell you. But this was an old school. This was an old school beat 'em up angle. This is back when this was the Horsemen. This was when the NWO was good. It's this type of situation where the heels are just running roughshod, and who's going to stop? If they were able to take out one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time, who is going to defend AEW against these people? Who's going to stick up for the fan? Who's going to stick up for the fan who's brokenhearted because Bryan Danielson has been taken out? Because Bryan Danielson is effectively dead. For all intents and purposes, it's been written off television. Pro wrestling is supposed to manipulate your emotions. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you feel things, and it's supposed to make you feel things sometimes that you're not quite happy about, that you don't want to feel. And oftentimes that's because of what a heel does. If you feel things you're not supposed to feel, and the promotion is expecting you to feel something else, well, that's a bit of a fail. But I'm telling you, when it's successful, when it's well done, when it's well put together, you're supposed to have heels doing heel shit. That's supposed to make you angry. It's supposed to make you upset. It's supposed to make you sad. Whatever. It's supposed to manipulate you. Pro wrestlers are manipulators. They're liars. This is what they do for a living. The top of the card feels interesting and fresh. Not that it wasn't when Swerve had it, don't get me wrong here, but it's interesting. It is unequivocally the centerpiece of the promotion right now. I don't see anything from a story purpose that is more significant than this. And once again, when this promotion is in need, when this promotion slinks back and enters a dark period and needs someone to champion it out of the dark period, once again, they turn to Jon Moxley to do it. He is once again the guy. He is the most reliable performer they have that they can just pick up, break glass, and turn to. CM Punk's being, CM Punk, bring in Mox. So-and-so got injured, bring in Mox. Danielson needs some time off, and, we need to realign ourselves. Bring in Mox. And he's, once again, doing some of the best stuff in the company. It's been systematically him ever since he's joined this company. It's been systematically him. There's much talk about MVPs for AEW. Guys, like Chris Jericho, their name is thrown around, and I agree. But I don't think there is a bigger MVP for AEW than Jon Moxley. I sincerely don't believe there's anyone else who has been this consistent, this good for so long in this company. So, there were rumors, rumors that he had grumbles, that he was, a little unhappy. I am glad to see that this company realizes how valuable Jon Moxley is and turned around and said, okay, Jon, you're not happy. What can we do to make you happy? Let's work together. Let's find something to make you happy. And you could tell in this match, this is an energetic, committed Mox. This is not IWGP World Champion fighting Powerhouse Hobbs on the Dynamite Mox. That's not him. It's not the same guy. This is the Mox we like. This is the Mox that a lot of us are fans of. This is the guy who can crank out the big matches, who can be the big time player. This is it. So listen, the match itself, excuse me, the match itself, I gave it 4.5 stars. Absolutely tremendous. And a great main event followed by a great angle that is going to power this company moving forward. Can I give one bit of criticism? Can I give one caveat? One caveat. Because as enthusiastic as I am, because I'm a sucker who wants to believe. I want to believe that AEW can be good from top to bottom. Here, as a sucker who wants to believe, I look at this and I get excited. But AEW's biggest problem, its biggest issue, isn't the angles. It's the follow-ups. So it's hard for me to sit here and just predict greatness moving forward. Everything that I have spelt out previous is observations. It's just putting 2 and 2 together. They have all the tools to make something absolutely tremendous with this Jon Moxley run. Just phenomenal. Without question. Will they do it? It's not will they be able to do it? Again, like I said at the top of this review, it's the greatest roster assembled ever. So it's not a question of can they do it, it's will they do it? Do they have the chutzpah to pull it off? That's what I am not super in confidence with. Despite all the elements being there, despite all the talent being in all the right places, I'm not there yet. It will absolutely be a wait and see type of situation instead of me slapping this desk and telling you all, this is going to be great. I don't know. I just don't know. Let's do the rest of this card. We'll overall thoughts of the 0 hour. I'm not going to go into every match in detail. I thought this was an okay 0 hour, fun, not a disaster, but again, one you sort of go, all right, that's fine. Brian Cage won the Ring of Honor television title match against Atlantis Jr. So apparently that's it for Atlantis Jr. doing the Ring of Honor thing. Probably was a little complicated with Mexico, with Mexico and stuff. So that's fine. That's fine. I'm a big Atlantis Jr. guy. I think this was his best match in the TK verse. Brian Cage rules. I think this is good, and crowd was into it. They were really happy to see Brian Cage win, despite the fact that I think he was the heel, won with a drill claw. It's fine. Anna Jay defeated Harley Cameron. This was not a good match. That's pretty much all I got. I don't think it was a good match. That spot at the end when Anna Jay hits her finisher, and she hits her finisher, covers Harley, and then the ref has to push Harley's shoulder down so that he can count. That's embarrassing. That's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. Oh, this wasn't very good. Listen, this is still a pro Harley Cameron podcast. I am not ready to throw her overboard yet. Toss her, throw her out with the throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's the expression that I'm struggling with. But man, her control segment was the pits. Like it was not good. I still think she has something. Like she is a literal rookie in the business, so there's a lot for her to learn. Maybe putting her in a match with Anna Jay is not the best way to learn, and maybe for Anna Jay to show off if she did indeed pick up anything while doing the 5-star Grand Prix in Stardom, show off. Maybe Harley wasn't the right opponent to do that. Maybe it should have been someone else because. I saw, I have one person who told me, well, what did she pick up in Stardom? I don't see anything here in this match. Well, that's it. Maybe Harley wasn't the person to do it, right? Maybe in any respect, this, you hate to say it, but this is a contender for worst match of the year in AEW. I really think this wasn't good. And breaks my heart because these are two ladies that I like, two wrestlers that I like. It didn't work. MXM Collection lost to the Acclaimed. Rico Constantino was the third man hanging out with Mason and Mansoor. Rico Constantino. And you felt like a lot of fans didn't know who he was. Guys like me did. It was kind of like, oh, look. Wow. They're like one of these gay panic gimmicks. And in 2024, which would actually get itself over, probably very positively. It's just crazy what was it, like 15, 20 years can do? Where back in the day, the idea was Rico was maybe, maybe gay, and that was an issue to, that kind of made him a heel. Look, tremendous stuff. And he looked tremendous. That dude is like 65 years old and taking bumps, built. I'm like, what? Looks the same? Like, looks legitimately the same face, holy shit. That's a good get. That's the kind of, little show opening stuff, on the pre-show. You throw that in there. It's a nice little, amuse-bouche. You get a little something, you get a good chuckle out of it. You're like, huh, and it's harmless. Like it doesn't, it's an angle with the Acclaimed. Who cares? But God Almighty, that's a great get. I'll take more Rico Constantino or more gets like Rico Constantino any day of the week as opposed to the fucking Costco guys. Any single day of the week. And then we had the Conglomeration and the Outrunners defeating the Premier Athletes, which were Arya Daivari and Tony Nese, and the Dark Order, which of course were the Beaver Boys, Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Yeah, and this was fine. Look, what is everyone pointing out that is an absolute truth here? The Outrunners are super over. The Outrunners were the most over act of the pre-show, maybe aside from Orange Cassidy, who always gets huge reactions. But man, these Outrunners, and I am terrified that Tony's going to pull the trigger and start pushing them way too soon. I am terrified at this. I am terrified at the idea. I am terrified at the idea of the Outrunners versus the Young Bucks in a world title program, because it is going to draw out all of the Bucks, all of the Jackson's worst instincts. I love the Bucks, don't get me wrong. I really do. I will always sit here and tell you they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. They were the team of the 2010s. No one did it better. They changed how tag team wrestling was perceived and executed in North America during that period, all the way up to your TV sets. You hadn't really realized until you started watching Young Bucks matches. But holy smokes, the Outrunners, it's all of the Bucks' worst instincts would be dragged out. So I'm kind of afraid about that. I feel like the Outrunners are in a great spot right now. And, I don't know how much you elevate them. I don't know how much you make them into a star. And they're fun. They're entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I get a hoot. It's a hoot and a holler for me. I think they're fun. And I love the hand clasp, elbow drop thing that they do. I think it's the perfect level of goofy for what they do without being overtly goofy, Because look, they have the 80s gimmick down pat. Your typical coked up 80s pro wrestler, they got it down pat. They've watched the tape, man. It's an amalgamation of a bunch of wrestlers all put together. They're a hoot. Don't get me wrong. I'm just really afraid. I'm just afraid. Let's get on with the main show, which started off with Jay White defeating Hangman Adam Page in an absolutely awesome match. I'm sitting there. I just watched, Anna Jay versus Harley Cameron, which, sucked the wind out of me. And then I watched, MXM Collection and the Acclaimed. And, y'all know how exhausted I am of the Acclaimed. All right. And it was fine. Don't get me wrong. It was fine. And then, an 8-man tag, which was entertaining, but, I'm like, okay, all right. And now we're starting off with White and Page. And I'm like, that's bold. What a bold move to start off after what we just watched with this match here. And this was tremendous. Like, this was a legitimately great match. Like, it is a legitimately great professional wrestling match. And it continues to compound the legend of Hangman Adam Page, that this man is incapable of having a bad match. He just can't. And Jay White, I've always not. That's not true. Don't be a liar, Warren. You haven't always seen this in Jay White, because there was a time you didn't understand Jay White, and then as he grew as a heel, as a top heel in New Japan, then you started to get it. Then you're like, oh, now I understand. And for the longest time, Jay White really had detractors in New Japan, because he was in the main event a lot. He's a former IWGP heavyweight champion. So a lot of people, and his matches, had a tendency to be long. And Jay White has never been a work rate guy. Jay White has always been about being a heel, being a proper heel in a match. And you always felt like he was better suited for North America. I said it multiple times in the past that Jay White was the best North American heel not working in North America. Like, there would be promotions tripping over themselves back then to bring him in and have him be the heel. Now, he's here. He's been a heel, but he's just doing tremendous work in this match. He's doing all of his typical heel shtick, and he's working to the level that he needs to work. And he's not even a heel. That's the thing. He's still doing his shtick, but he's the baby face. Of course, he's toning down the heel stuff, but he's still doing it. He's still Switchblade Jay White. He's not like suddenly, sunshine and rainbows Jay White. He's still doing the stuff, and he's working. And he's working to what he needs to do. This is another guy who I feel may have been... This is a guy who's always been pushed in this company. He's always been protected, at the very least, right? If you don't agree with pushed, at the very least, he's always been protected in this company. And a lot of Jay fans, myself included, could argue that he's not being used to the height of his powers. Because this is a guy who's firmly in the mid-card right now, who grabs a microphone and tears the house down. This is a guy that people have eventually started cheering just because Jay White is so good. He's so entertaining. A lot of people thought it was weird that he's being paired up in a feud against Hangman. A lot of people like myself are like, how is this going to go? This is kind of odd. And I like this type of match where you have two guys where you're like, well, who's going to win? Who's going to take a loss here? Like, it's not that clean cut. Because both you have arguments for both guys. But ultimately, the sensible argument won, and the sensible argument being Hangman Page is fine. He doesn't need to win every match he's in. If there is one guy in all of AEW who is fine, it is Hangman Adam Page. He's okay. They have plans for this guy that he probably doesn't even know about. And he is still the protagonist of the company. He's still the guy that they're going to turn to. Don't worry about Adam Page. Adam Page is peachy keen. So him losing here is not an issue. And they went hard. Just a hard-hitting match. Getting power bombed on the apron and then on the stairs. And Jay White, what is he doing? He's working the knee. He's working the knee. Like, Page is probably more in control in this match. But whenever Jay has an opportunity, he goes for the knee. What does that do? Well, it keeps Page from hitting the buckshot lariat properly. At the end, he tries to do it, knee buckles, shakes the kinks out, does it again, gives just enough time for Jay White to get to regain his senses. Page does the buckshot, but White just grabs him as he's coming in, right into a Blade Runner for the win. One of these snappy little Blade Runners that he's beaten Okada with in the past. I popped huge. I thought this was great. I did that tremendous 4.5 stars out of 5 for me. And you know what? If anyone wanted to add this to their match of the year list, I wouldn't even blame you. This was an awesome match. Awesome. And it's kicking off. So now I'm sitting there going, holy shit. This just might turn into a special evening. But Page isn't able to have a bad match. He's incapable of doing it. He just can't. That's just the world we live in. And you have to accept it. That's just how things go now. Mariah May defeated Willow Nightingale to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. I loved this match. I thought it was really, really, really good. I would even go as far as to say that this was Mariah May's best match in AEW. And, you know, to a degree, I can only shrug and point and go, well, look who her dance partner was, right? Like, she was with Willow Nightingale, who is steadily establishing herself as truly one of the best women's wrestlers in North America. I think it's been more and more steady. I don't think anyone really thinks that she's bad, don't get me wrong, but the more time goes on, the more she really is establishing herself as one of the best workers out there. Yeah. Would we be game enough to put her in a top 10? Yes. A top 5? I'd have to put some proper thought into that. I don't know who I'd put in my top 5, but probably. She is right up there. She is one of the most invaluable pieces to the women's division. No other woman in that company wrestles like her, and that's right straight off the bat is a breath of fresh air. And she herself is a breath of fresh air. Her charisma, her attitude, that crowd connection, she's got so many elements. You know, for someone that it took Tony a long time before getting the confidence to put her into these spots. And I feel like she has been reliable. She's been good to great in some circumstances. She never underdelivers. I think there's no surprise that when Stephanie Vaquer packed up her bags and hit the bricks. Excuse me. And CMLL had to vacate the women's championship. I don't think there's I don't think it was a name pulled out of a hat to decide who was going to hold the title in interim until CMLL got their shit together. No, CMLL went to their partner promotion and said, this Willow Nightingale girl you have, we like her. Do you like her? Yes, I like her. And the fans in CMLL know who she is because she's wrestled in Mexico before. Maybe we should do that. She's not gonna run away on you, is she, Tony? No, she's not. She won the title and then she lost it. But the point is that I'm not saying that she had this great series of defenses. What I'm saying is that she's the one that they turned to put a vacant title on, just as the company had to vacate said title because the champion just suddenly one day decided to pack their things and go to WWE. And they were sort of reeling on this, and it did not make them happy. They were like, look, and let's do this. We like her. You like her? Of course we like her. Everyone likes Willow. Let's go. Reliable, trustworthy. She's always there. She never seems to, she'll do the job. She'll go over. She'll do whatever you need. She is a tremendous cornerstone to this women's division. Like, unquestionably. And Mariah looked good. Talking a lot about Willow, but Mariah looked good. We have to underscore this. This was a very good match for Mariah. Absolutely the best match since she won the title, but I would even go as far as to say that this is probably her best match in AEW. I think she was absolutely phenomenal. And she bumped. She took a lot of Willow's big offense. That's one thing you can't take away from Mariah. She's not afraid. She's not afraid to take bumps. And she sells well. I gave this match 3 3/4 stars. Mariah won the match with an Avalanche Rana knee strike in the Storm Zero. Then we had Jack Perry retaining the TNT Championship against Katsuyori Shibata. This is another match that I was not expecting. I think this. This was Katsuyori Shibata best match in AEW so far. This is 2 matches back to back where I'm telling you, this is their best match in the company so far. This was a hell of a lot of fun, where Jack Perry is basically fighting the wrestler Shibata, like as in his moniker, right? The wrestler, the guy who stands up to everything, was the embodiment of strong style. Perry is going after him, chopping, trying to knock him down, and Shibata's just no selling. He's like, staring down on him with the most condescending looks, like, you're not in my league, little boy, kind of thing. And I think, dare I say it? Am I going to jinx it? Is he going to start throwing shoot headbutts after this? But this is a match where Katsuyori Shibata wrestled like Katsuyori Shibata. If that makes sense. This is the closest I've seen since him coming back from the injury that from which he was not supposed to return from. As long as he doesn't start throwing shoot headbutts, we're fine. We're fine. Or headbutts at all. Just don't do any headbutts at all. That's fine. And I mean, Shibata is just overwhelming. Jack Perry with offense, suplexes him against the apron. Just like, it's just amazing stuff. DVDs and Yushigoroshis. And Jack Perry's trying to do whatever he can. And the finish is a good sneaky heel finish where Shibata sets Jack Perry up into a sleeper and they fall to the mat, and Jack Perry then sort of angles so that Shibata's shoulders are on, because sleeper, right? Angles it so that Shibata's shoulders are on the mat, then bridges. Referee counts to 3 and we get the win that way. The referee didn't have to push down on anyone's shoulders to get this to work, by the way. It was just fine. And that was fantastic. I gave this match, I thought this was very good. 3.5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was very good. And then after the match, Jack Perry attacks Shibata, which then brings out Daniel Garcia, who, as you remember, has a history with Shibata, and Shibata on Dynamite, I believe. Yeah, on Dynamite, Shibata ran into Garcia and basically promised him a shot for the title. He hadn't even won yet. So, just to clearly reestablish the contact there. And Garcia runs in for the save. And that triggers MJF to come out. Was not scheduled, was not supposed to be there. I'll tell you what, Max, I don't know if you're listening, but holy smokes, that hit your hair, brother. I'm not casting aspersions, but there's something you could tidy up about the hair. Unless it has something to do with the roll, unless you're still fresh off the roll, whatever you had to. But man, oh man, Max. But nonetheless, despite this anecdotal observation, it did not take away from the return of MJF, who people popped huge for. Got into the ring with Garcia. They jaw jack. They go at it, and Max is getting he cuts a promo because he's getting in control of Garcia, and that drags out Adam Cole, who it seems like no walking boot, no limp. He ran to the ring, and I was like, no, don't do run-ins. This is what got us in trouble the first time. Don't do yeah. I was kind of like, no. But yeah, Adam Cole is back. He chased off MJF, and yeah. Busy night there. A lot of returns. Interesting how the last time Adam Cole was in the ring with MJF, can't remember at what pay-per-view it was, but the last time they were together, Adam Cole was acting the heel, and MJF came out to babyface him and not spear him, but do the brain buster, right? And I thought that was it, right? Like, to me, I was content with that. I was like, oh, okay, this is how we're tidying up, the disaster of 2023 just by, okay, MJF came back, got his revenge. We're done. We're fine. Let's hit the bricks, right? But no, apparently we're going to revisit that. We've got to bring some closure to this. And it's going to be weird because now Max is back being a full-on asshole heel, whereas Adam Cole is now going to be the babyface, and their roles at the offset of the feud before Adam Cole got injured were flipped. Adam Cole had turned on MJF, so there was a lot of so now we're sort of back with that, but in reversed roles. So when MJF is going to talk about being betrayed and friendship and all of that, we're going to boo him because Adam Cole was absolutely an asshole to him. And I kind of feel like Adam Cole should be a heel. And, I don't know. I guess you could make an argument to say, well, he's not going to return. If he returns, people are going to want to cheer for him. And I agree, but to an extent, I don't know. Does this mean that the Undisputed Kingdom is done? God, I hope so. Kensuke Takeshita defeated Ricochet and Will Ospreay to become the new AEW International Champion in a Match of the Year contender. I gave them a full 5 stars for me. A full 5. That is without any question. It's what a tremendous match that just had me hooting and hollering. I was up off my seat in some occasions. So much happening in this match. And you know, from the start when Ricochet does a Sasuke special and Takeshita catches him on the floor, I'm like, hot damn. And look, I don't know who was expecting Konosuke Takeshita to win, but I am considering that a surprise. A delightful surprise. I was really happy with that result. I was thrilled. Takeshita is one of the absolute best pro wrestlers on earth right now. He is absolutely in the conversation of being one of the most complete, utter fantastic pro wrestlers. I have been in the crowd of people mentioning, saying, screaming that the way AEW had been treating him has been treating him is not great. He should be pushed. He should be in bigger spots. He shouldn't just be finagling around doing nonsense. This is Konosuke Takeshita. And you saw it in the G1 as well. You saw it in the G1 where he goes to Japan. He goes into New Japan Pro Wrestling and he's having these matches. And he's outclassing the people that he's wrestling with. And these are people in New Japan. And amidst rumors that, you know, oh, well, the Konosuke isn't quite happy with AEW. And we're all sitting back and we're going, well, maybe New Japan should make a play for him. He's working, Takeshita's working a New Japan of America show. A New Japan Strong show. Not Fighting Spirit, is it? I don't remember the name. Yeah, I think it's Fighting Spirit. In a couple of weeks. It's, oh, look at that. He's working another New Japan show. But no, like it was fantastic. And Takeshita had so much shine in this match that I was like, he's not winning. Like I was convinced because not that he was completely dominating, but the stuff that he did was so remarkable. Just so remarkable. And not that the other guys weren't doing remarkable things, but he was doing it like, I don't know, more just fantastic, amazing. He really seemed in control. He really seemed on top of things. And again, not that Ricochet and Will Ospreay weren't extraordinary in their own right. Will Ospreay is Will Ospreay. I thought Ricochet looked tremendous here. Probably his best outing. I don't know if you've like big spot with two guys who could handle just about anything. It just looked tremendous to me. He looked tremendous. Will Ospreay was tremendous here as well. Ricochet and Will Ospreay, they trade poison ranas. Then Konosuke Takeshita Germans, both of them, right? There's of course this great spot where Will Ospreay lands on his feet after a clothesline by Takeshita with, you know, the kind of thing that makes you go, Will Ospreay is not like us. You know, one of these things. And he goes for the Os cutter, covers, but Ricochet flies in from out of nowhere to break up the pin. And it's all... See, what makes this different from a lot of other places who do this thing is timing, pacing. These guys worked so hard and the rhythm was all so high octane. It was just like continuous, nonstop. Then of course you'd have rest periods, but then they'd start up again with these great sequences. It was just like, dum, 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 dum. Things, stuff landing, hard hitting. You get the bastard driver through the table, off the apron by Takeshita. Ricochet is dead, essentially, at this point. Ospreay hits a hidden blade, covers, but Callis drags the referee out of the ring. He pulls out the screwdriver, wants to go after Ospreay. But Ospreay's like, no. Grabs the arm, not supposed to happen. And then Kyle Fletcher hits the ring and uses the screwdriver on Will Ospreay. Fletcher has picked his side. And Konosuke Takeshita pins to win the match. Here's the other thing. If you want to do a finisher, if you want to finish a match with interference, this is the way you do it. You deliver a high octane match and you do something that makes tons of sense because it's been set up so many times in the past. It's been set up. It's been well established. If this is how you want to end it, this is how you do it. Because not only does it make sense, but it sets things up immediately for the future. Now you've got Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher who are just going to want to tear each other apart, right? I don't know where this leaves Ricochet, but Ricochet probably has a couple of bones to pick with Konosuke Takeshita now moving forward, which is also a series of matches that I am completely okay with. Like, I don't have an issue with this match, with how this match finished. I don't think it took away from the match. I think it made sense, made perfect sense. And it wasn't just like doing a finish for the sake of doing a screwball finish for the sake of it, right? Just because we had someone to protect. No, it's not because you have someone to protect. It's because you have to finish off something. You have to dot an I here, but not cross this new T that you just wrote onto this sentence. Brand new stuff coming out of this. This is good. It's good. I've got no notes, no criticisms really. This match ruled. 5 stars. After the match, Kyle Fletcher, Tiger Driver 91's Will Ospreay. There you go. As goofy as the Tiger Driver 91 story has been, it's the through line. As goofy as it's been, I wasn't always on board with it, especially when Will Ospreay is still bemoaning using the Tiger Driver 91 once Bryan Danielson is back wrestling and in an Anarchy in the Arena match. If I were Will Ospreay, I would have been like, well, this ain't so bad. That's not so bad. My finisher is not so bad. Just fantastic stuff. I can't put it over enough. Swerve Strickland then comes to the ring with Prince Nana, and he talks it up, and MVP comes out with Shelton Benjamin. Of course, they're trying to make a play for Swerve. Swerve talks about the past with MVP, and saying he looked up to Shelton Benjamin when he was a kid and puts him over in a very sincere way that most of the fans there understood. We knew what he was talking about, how the influence of Shelton Benjamin on pro wrestling I don't think will ever be fully appreciated. That's essentially it. I thought it was a good segment, and he sort of teases dumping Prince Nana as his manager and going with MVP, but he doesn't. He says, Nana, you're family, and I don't turn my back on family. And then this gets Shelton Benjamin all hot, and he basically tells him that was a mistake. You're either with us or against us. And this is where we end the talk segment with referees trying to pull them apart. Now, was this absolutely necessary? Because they were trying to brawl with each other, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Was this a segment that absolutely needed to be on a pay-per-view? No. I was expecting, I think like many people, Bobby Lashley to show up. That would have been a pay-per-view moment kind of thing. But no, there was no reason for this. There really was no reason. I don't understand exactly why, outside of wanting Swerve Strickland to be in Washington State in his stomping grounds, right? Outside of that, this would have been a nice, successful quarter hour on Dynamite. It really would have. I don't know why we felt compelled to do this, but we did it. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just curious. Like, what was the incentive here? Again, outside of having outside of having Swerve be at the pay-per-view in Washington, that's the only real plausible reason for that to have been a thing. There was no Bobby Lashley, right? I had read rumors and reports that Lashley versus Swerve was supposed to happen at Wrestle Dream, and they pushed it back, and I'm okay with that. In fact, I think it's working out better this way. Yeah, I feel like not rushing Swerve back is a good thing. I think it's helping him. I think it helps the mystique. I think not rushing Bobby Lashley is either. I think not rushing Bobby Lashley is a good thing as well. That's what I'm trying to say. And I mean, a successful segment, don't get me wrong. I just wonder why it was there, but I wasn't not entertained, and it certainly didn't destroy me. And you know what? It was probably a good idea to put this after the 3-way match. That absolutely bonkers 3-way match to sort of give a tiny little bit of breathing room. If you go from a match to if you're coming off a match of the year, the next guy's they're gonna have a hard time picking this. So I think even from a tempo point of view, especially when the next match was Hologram defeating the Beast Mortos, where it's essentially a lucha match. What's a lucha libre match? Essentially, it's flips, it's dives, it's people flying around. We kind of got that in the three-way. We got a lot of really incredible aerial stuff. I think the little buffer there was a good idea. I think that helped. I thought this was great. I thought this was great. I thought Hologram was in great form. The Beast Mortos is tremendous. Tony clearly likes him, or at least Tony understands that the people like him. I think that I heard someone say that he has a cult following. Someone recently said that, and that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, he's just phenomenal and a great base for Hologram. They did the 2 out of 3 falls match. That is typically the situation in lucha libre that happens more often than not. And there's just there's some absolutely incredible stuff. An incredible poison rana by Hologram on the apron, and a senton atomico. He does this amazing senton atomico to the floor. I actually thought he hurt himself. Look, picture what this match is in your mind, and that's exactly what it is. It was just tremendous. They both get a pinfall win until we get to the final pin, where Beast Mortos tries to do the same combination that he did to win his fall, to win the second fall, which was his, which is the power bomb over the knee and the rolling lariat. But that didn't work. Hologram comes after him with a super rana, does the crucifix bomb again, which was what he did to win the first fall. He does, but then he does his finisher thing. It has a name, but I don't remember what it is. Hologram does. He does his finisher thing and gets the final fall, and a big win for Hologram. And I liked how the audience was here. It never felt like a dead audience, because even when they weren't like as expressive, you always felt they were watching, paying attention, that they were invested in the show. It's like at the end, right? When Danielson is being, carted off, when he's being put on the gurney, the stretcher, when he's being put on it, there's like, it's like dead silence, but it's not like dead silence. Everyone's still up on their feet. Everyone's standing up. And it's just like, you could hear a fly in the arena. That's tremendous. And this here, you could tell they were paying attention. They were reacting to the spots. When the spots got bigger, it was a good audience throughout. It was really, really tremendous. So great match. 4 stars for me. Great match. I loved it. Darby Allin defeated Brody King. What a blast. What an absolute fucking blast by these two guys who know each other so well and who know what their roles are. This early on goes on the floor after no-selling a couple of shots from Darby Allin. Brody King just proceeds to demolish Darby Allin. They do, he just beats him up. Allin fights back with a couple of dives and a coffin drop to the floor and a code red in the ring. Avalanche back suplex by King and a German suplex out of which Darby barely kicks out. And then this bonkers spot where Brody King is climbing the turnbuckle and Darby just pushes him off and Brody falls onto the stairs. He had set up the stairs on their side, so you're not he doesn't fall exactly on the stairs, but on the flat side of the stairs. But still, you're he falls off, lands back first on that. You're not protecting yourself on that, by the way. And then Darby goes and coffin drops off of that onto this. I'm like, oh my God, they get back into the ring, coffin drop. Darby gets the win. one of these great matches where Darby Allin just eats shit throughout. Tremendous stuff. The Young Bucks successfully retained the AEW World Tag Team titles against Private Party. This was probably the match where I felt the crowd was least into. And I myself, for the better part of the first half, like, all right, okay. There's only so, okay, first of all, they did the vignettes, the pre-tapes with Amazing Red, their trainer, right? And that is like, oh, this is cool. Why weren't these aired on Dynamite in the lead up to this? Why didn't we do this before? Because the match struggled, and I'll tell you why the match struggled, to get a connection and to get an emotional investment by me, is because of the weeks leading up to this match. I said it, I talked about it on the preview to this and on the Dynamite reviews as well. You should follow me all the time is what I'm trying to say. In the weeks leading up to this match, Private Party were essentially the job squad for Mox's new group. They were being punked out, getting their hands broken, and then when they finally get the match with they get owned. And then out of nowhere, they come into we want a shot at the titles. And you just go, all right, willy-nilly, everyone gets a turn. Everyone gets a turn now. It's all nonsense. I hate that stuff. And that's why, the hot tags in the first half of the match, they didn't connect because people don't buy Private Party as a top team. And quite frankly, I don't either. I don't really see it. I think Isaiah Cassidy has a lot of upside. I think he has upside. I don't think Mark Quinn has. I don't. And I think the act is kind of tight. And look, they themselves, from this point on, they it's no longer the thing about, coming to the bar, right? They don't do the bouncer gimmick. They don't do the dance thing coming to the ring. It's no longer that. Now they're serious. Now they're serious pro wrestlers. It's time to serious up our career. We've been here 5 years and we upset the Bucks. Now, how much juice can you squeeze out of the fact that Private Party upset the Bucks in the tag team tournament? This was 5 years ago. And yes, they've been beset by injuries and whatnot. But I think since then, I am of the opinion that Private Party have kind of been exposed to be very mid. Just a mid tag team, and a tag team that the company has not been behind for a long fucking time. So there was really no reason for us to get invested into this match. It's kind of like you have a wrestler, it's the same idea where you have a wrestler losing all the time, then suddenly gets a title shot, and then they build that up for the pay-per-view, but you're like, this guy or gal loses all the time. What are we doing here? They're not going to win. It doesn't matter. I don't think anyone truly expected Private Party to win, so that also takes away from the match. That being said, I thought the second part of the match was tremendous. When you can tell the Young Bucks flipped the switch and they took control of the match, and they just started pulling out great stuff, continued down this streak of doing some really creative stuff. And I mean, Private Party did their part too in this as well. I really like the spot, this new spot that the Bucks do, right? The power bomb, the springboard power bomb, the double team springboard power bomb that they do. It was blocked. It was blocked by Private Party. It's probably Cassidy. I can't quite remember, but Cassidy blocked it as he was doing it. As he's in the air, reverses into a Rana on Matt Jackson. That was tremendous stuff. And the crowd started getting into this more when one of the bigger spots started popping up. You had You had Gin and Juice arrive. You had Private Party doing more bang for your buck. EVP trigger by the Bucks, who then cover, but Private Party, and it was Isaiah Cassidy kicks out to a huge reaction from the crowd. But the Bucks fight back. They land the EVP trigger and TK Driver for the win. And this is a circumstance that the crowd elevated this match. The second half of this match got really, really excited. The crowd was into it, and it turned into something really good. And I think the Bucks, once again, made a tag team match great. I think at halfway, they were feeling the energy. They were like, this can't happen. And they started cranking everything up. You know, there's at some point, if you're backstage and you're watching the matches and you're hearing the crowd, you can't say to yourself, we cannot go out there and try to be better, right? As much as everyone likes to say, you know, wrestling is scripted, oh, there's writers, you have to follow the plan and the booker and all that. These are all guys and gals who are competitive, if only for their spots in the company. So none of them are okay with the idea of some other guy or gal being in the ring working so hard that they might be costing them their spot right now. That's just no one is stoked about that. So you got at some point this Wrestle Dream card had to have some of that backstage. Had to have people going like, all right, well, we have to, everyone's turning it up tonight. Let's turn it up as well. And I think we saw it live with the Bucks where they're like, no. Whatever we're doing here, it's not working. And they shifted gears. And it was a complete, I was watching two different matches. I think the first half was on its way to be a mediocre match, but what we ended up was a 3.25 star match by Warren Hayes. I despite all of my criticism about Private Party, I love this match. I think if it had been a team where there was more emotional investment, in which you might consider them winning the title, and maybe a little better, it would have climbed higher in my ratings, I believe. And then we have one more match to talk about, which is the Ring of Honor World Championship match, where Mark Briscoe successfully retained against Chris Jericho. Again, the egotistical Chris Jericho putting over yet another member of the roster. That's all he does. Yeah. Oh, he's so not shellfish. I was watching SpongeBob yesterday, if that's any indication. He's so selfish. He never puts anyone over except himself, or he's always only looking out for, and yet he puts people over all the time. Yes, Chris Jericho always hates. Anyway, I thought this was very good. I also enjoyed this match, and it was essentially Chris Jericho telling Mark Briscoe, beat me up. Just do what you got to do here. Beat me. And that's what he did. And Jericho, I think in this match here, worked to his limitations. Are we starting to see some sort of self-awareness here? He wasn't wrestling athletically. He wasn't trying to do amazing stuff. The last couple of times he has, like in the Mystico match at CMLL about a couple of weeks ago, close to a month now, right? He tried some stuff out and didn't quite work. So I'm kind of at the place where I'm scratching my beard. I'm going, well, did he actually just like want to do a brawl type of situation, right? Is that what we wanted here? It kind of feels that way. And he went up with Mark Briscoe, who was like, yeah, you want me to do stuff? All right, I'll do stuff. And Mark was just phenomenal here. You know, the most impressive thing he did, I think, was an avalanche Hurricane Rana, right? And he also did the apron suplex, which I don't know why anyone does or takes that. That's just bonkers. The apron suplex to the floor, that's just wrong, man. And the learning tree tries to interfere. Rocky Romero gets involved, and it's fine. There's a table set up. They go through the table. Jericho does a nice little spot where he catches, I should say, a froggy bow by Briscoe with a code breaker, lands the Judas effect, but doesn't want to end the match. He wants to finish it with a J Driller, and that allows Mark to fight back because he's not going to let that happen. And Mark finishes the match with a froggy bow and the J Driller for the win. 3.5 stars. I thought this was a good match. I enjoyed it. Didn't overstay its welcome. Good things to say about it. I thought it was a good little match. I think I've hit most of the, and then of course the main event, which we've extensively talked about. I think that's it. I think that pretty much covers all of my thoughts regarding AEW Wrestle Dream 2024. It was a tremendous show. And look, if you're looking for recommendations, I mean, listen, there's a match of the year on this show. Okay. The three-way with Konosuke Takeshita, Ospreay, and Ricochet. That's absolutely one you go for. You watch the main event, you watch the opener. Like those, I guess, are the most obvious ones, but you can watch this entire show and you're going to enjoy it. There's nothing bad on the show. There's nothing even boring, or you're going like, yeah, well, that one wasn't. I think everything is, your mileage might vary on the Young Bucks versus Private Party, but I thought the Young Bucks' work was phenomenal and saved the match. Everything else is, and the work they put in, like, managed to elevate the match, But there's a great vibe to the show. Audience was into it. The wrestlers were clearly into it. They all had a fire lit. It was great stuff. Plus for me. I have no complaints. I really have no complaints. It's a show you have to, if you love pro wrestling, I think you sit down and you watch it and you enjoy it. You consume it and you love it. You let it take over you. You let it lie next to you. You maybe wrap your arm around it, see how it feels about it. And things move on from there. So there you have it. Wrestle Dream 2024. 2 thumbs way up. How about that?